welcome to the LTH Product Briefing. I am so happy today to be here with my friend Damien Riehl, the VP Solutions Champion of vLex, one of the smartest, hardest working people that I know. Damien, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Damien, this has been a really exciting week and a half because Vincent AI, the AI legal assistant that sits within vLex, has launched a new capability, a broadened capability or set of capabilities. Can you tell our audience a little bit about, first of all, how Vincent came to be in the first place?
Sure. Vincent started years ago as a brief analyzer where you could upload a brief and be able to say, here are 10 cases that you missed, these 3 that are often cited with it. Perhaps you might want to be able to add those. So that's we've had for years. And then Vincent AI, we started building since about May of last year, so May of 2023, where we've built several capabilities and then built upon each other until the thing that we just released last week, which we'll be talking about.
Wonderful. And what are the capabilities that have been recently released?
So we wanted to be able to say, if you ask a legal question, let's search then actual non-hallucinated cases and actual non-hallucinated statutes and actual non-hallucinated regulatory materials to be able to give you an answer. So that was the skateboard, if you will. Then we built upon that to say, what if we could do that for multiple jurisdictions at the same time? What if we could do a 50-state survey or a 50-country survey? Because of course we have data from over 100 countries that we're putting into Vincent AI as fast as we can. So that's more of the going from skateboard to bicycle. And then we thought, well, we don't want just objective answers to questions. We actually want litigators to argue with this. So then we said, let's build an argument to not give an objective answer, but more give a skewed answer either to support an argument or to oppose the other side's argument. So that's the skill number 3 that we did. And then we said, well, now we could do all those things, but wouldn't it be better, since everything a lawyer does ends in a document? All roads lead to a document, as my friend Jay said, and also Casey Flaherty. So if all roads lead to a document, maybe we could just upload one or many documents and then be able to then not have the user have to be a prompt engineer, but instead for the system to be able to understand what kinds of documents they are and to give you prompts right out of the box that is just buttons to be able to give you the answers without you having to prompt a thing. And that's what we released last week.
Well, it's fantastic. Why don't we jump in and take a look?
Sure. I'll go through each of the things that I just mentioned. What if you were to ask a question like trade secret law regarding former employees stealing customer lists across actual non-hallucinated cases and actual non-hallucinated statutes and regulations and non-hallucinated secondary materials like law reviews and things from the American Bar Association? Stage 1 is to be able to do a vector embedding match where here's actual non-hallucinated text from actual non-hallucinated cases. So we give you that non-hallucinated text here. This is important for trust but verify. That is, you have to trust the output of the large language model, but you need to verify that this text is actually here. Stage 2 is we ask the large language model, how well or how poorly does this text here answer this question? And here is how well or how poorly Neville answers this question. Here's how well or how poorly Snelling answers this question. So we do that for every single case, statute and regulation. Stage 3 is we give a confidence score from 0 to 100. How well or how poorly does Neville answer the question? You'll see something from 100%, 90, 80, 70, but you won't see anything below 70 because if it's below 70, we throw it away. So all you see here in these 24 cases are high quality cases that answer your question. Then stage 4 is you go into Neville. And so we figure, well, if Neville answers the question, then perhaps the cases that Neville cites might also answer the question. So we go through every single one of these cases, Paul, Friedman, and we do that same stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 process on every single one of these cases. We call that going down the tree. And then we also go up the tree. Lots of cases cite Neville. Sequoia cites Neville. Desch cites Neville. 247 cases cite Neville. So we do that same stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 process on all 247 of these. So when people say, ChatGPT is not quite up to human levels, I worked as a lawyer for 15 years, and I know exactly 0 humans, when they find the case, will go to all 32 cases that case cites and look at those. And I know exactly 0 humans that would go through all 247 cases that cite Neville and check those. We do both of those things. So we're doing something at superhuman speed. We do it in 2 minutes, and superhuman depth and breadth that no human will ever do. Then after stage 4, we take all 40 of these cases and turn it into a memorandum like you see here. And when I was a litigator, I would tell my associates, don't make me wait to the bottom to give me the answer. Give me the answer right up top. And so this is the answer to how all 40 of these answer this question in one paragraph. Then I say, okay, now that you've given me the answer, dig deeper into the statutes. dig deeper into the cases, dig deeper into the secondary materials. And large language models are sycophants. They tell you what you want to hear. And I say, don't tell me just what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. Give me the exceptions to the rule. Give me the flies in my ointment. And so you can see here that if information is readily ascertainable through public sources, might not be a trade secret. This is a fly in the ointment that a large language model is not going to give you out of the box. It only gives that to you because we prompted it in this smart way. How long would it take a human to read through hundreds of cases, land on the 24 that are above that 70% threshold, and then take all 40 of these and turn it into a memo? Probably longer than the 2 minutes that it does to create here.
Sorry to interrupt, but one of the amazing things I think here is it's not just about the breadth of case law and other primary sources of law that you have access to, but the fact that you have structured this response in the way that a lawyer would structure it. So it really comes out with exactly the components that you would require for a memo.
That's right. And another thing that to build upon that is you will get this structure on every single memo that comes out. It is in large language models talk about probabilistic models versus deterministic models. And here we have both, where it is deterministic, where it will give you the short response and the legislation and the case law and secondary materials and exceptions on every single one. So in that way, it's deterministic. And of course, it's probabilistic on the content within each of those. So now we thought, what if this is the skateboard. And we thought, what if we could do that for multiple jurisdictions? And so this is comparing jurisdictions. So what if you could be able to say, what are those jurisdictions' laws on operating franchises in New York and in California and in the United Kingdom and in Spain and the European Union and in Mexico? So here you can see that it's created a memorandum for every single one of these. You might say this seems like a 50-state survey, and I'd say that's because it is, but it's not just a 50-state survey, it is a 50-country survey. And to do a 50-country survey, you need the data from 50 countries. That is, you need the data from the United States, which only 3 countries in the world have this data. We're one of the 3. And you also need it for continental Europe, Spain, Italy, France, Austria. You also need it for Latin America, for Ecuador, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. You need it for the tax havens of the Jamaica, Bahamas, to Cayman Islands. You need it for the banking powerhouses of Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore. And soon you're going to be able to have another memorandum where we will say, tell me how these jurisdictions are similar and tell me how these jurisdictions are different. And if you know anything about 50-state surveys, and I built a lot of them, you know 2 things. Number 1, they take forever. Number 2, they're obsolete as soon as the ink is dry, because tomorrow there's going to be a new New York case, going to be a new California statute. So we take care of thing number 1, where it's not going to take weeks or months to do this. It does these 5 in about 5 or 6 minutes. And then soon there's going to be an alert button. So if there is a new New York case that answers this question, we will push that to you. So this is a self-updating 50-state survey or a 50-country survey eventually. So that's skill number.
If the alert indicates there's a new case, does it also automatically change the response if the case changes the response?
It's a good question. I mean, we are building that right now. You can imagine there's, if there are 1,000 New York cases a day that answer this question, you're not going to want to be bombarded with 1,000 new updates. So we're really thinking through, maybe we only give you an update if it substantially modifies the answer that we've given you before. And if it doesn't substantially modify it, you as a user can say, I don't care about it, only if it's substantially modified. So we're really working through what that alert will look like. But you're right, that is something that we're thinking through right now. Cool. So this is that's skill number 2. Skill number 3 is, sometimes I want to objectively give an answer to a question. Sometimes I want an objective answer for multiple jurisdictions. But let's face it, I litigated. What I do is I argue. And what I would do is I support my argument and I oppose the other side's argument. So here is now an opposition to an argument that the recording of a conversation without consent violates privacy laws. And so here are the other sides of that argument from actual non-hallucinated cases and statutes. So use case number 1, this is the other side's argument. I can say, Your Honor, that's illogical, and here's why. That's use case number 1. This is the other side's argument. But use case number 2 is more interesting. What if this is my argument and I want to shadow box with myself? That is, I want to see what the other side might argue. So I could then say, this is my argument, and then I could put in my initial brief, Your Honor, the other side might argue this, but that's illogical. Let me tell you why. So this is a way you can cut the other side off at the pass before they've even had a chance to argue it. So this is probably, using my analogy before, skateboard to bicycle to motorcycle. This is our motorcycle. But then we thought, what if you could do that not for one proposition, but for every single proposition in a document? And that's now the car that we built and released last week. That car is whether it's a litigation document or a transactional document or advisory or a regulatory document, whether that is a contract with M&A, briefs, pleadings, motions, discovery, or regulatory laws and regulations. How well does this contract comply with current laws and regulations? So looking to each of these, I took an actual complaint. This is the New York Times sued Microsoft and OpenAI over ChatGPT and copyright infringement. And once you've uploaded it, the system recognizes, this is the system recognizing what this is. And then based on it being a complaint, gives you all of these buttons rules without any prompting necessary. And these buttons reflect the things that I did as a litigator every day whenever I received a new complaint. I would say, what are the claims being alleged? What are the facts being alleged? What are they looking for, money or an injunction? Who are the parties and what are their roles and relationships? These are all extractive items that I did for every single claim. Then we go beyond extraction to say, what is the work of a lawyer? I, as a litigator, would say, what potential legal defenses did I mount for each claim? What are questions I can ask my client? This is the work of the lawyer. I would then try to find other cases like mine in my document management system. But what if you could do that for 800 million dockets and documents for all the federal courts and 34 state courts? This is a universal document management system that we're searching. Then I would try to find legal research questions. And you can see here, these legal research questions are customized for this complaint because you can see that it said, what are the copyright in the context of AI and machine learning technologies? These are all created on the fly. So
the color coding, I imagine people will get to know. It looks like the purple is sort of actions. I mean, is that how it's done so that you've actually color coded the types of things you can do within Vincent?
That's exactly right. And soon these icons will be different depending on whether you're extracting or generating. But yes, so these are generative AI questions. The orange are things that is searching docket alarm from the 800 million dockets and documents. And then the green are legal research questions that are customized for this particular context of this particular document that you uploaded. So let's do each one of these. For the claims, I can click on Analyze the Claims, and it says for claim 1 is copyright infringement. Here are the statutes involved. It is not state law, it's federal law. And here are the facts, and here are the parties and witnesses for this particular claim. We do that for every single claim. Then what are the facts being alleged? And here you can see that the facts as alleged in the complaint. We do that for one document, but you could do that for 20 documents or 100 documents. What are the parties involved in the lawsuit? Here's the New York Times, Microsoft, and all the OpenAI entities, including the product company, the operating company, and the holding company. What are they looking for? Obviously, they're looking for money. They're looking for an injunction. They're looking to destroy ChatGPT altogether. These are all the remedies. Then we go beyond extraction and we say, what is the work of the lawyer? That is, what are potential defenses to each claim? So for copyright infringement, maybe you want to argue fair use. Maybe argue that the use of the copyrighted material was transformative. ChatGPT is educational and research purposes and doesn't really affect the market for New York Times. These are good legal arguments that we do for every single claim. Then what questions should I ask the New York Times? What questions should I ask OpenAI? Things like, what data sets you used to train the models? Did they contain New York Times stuff? Did you try to get licenses? These are all good questions for every single claim. Now here's a legal research question. Copyright and fair use and transformative use for AI. Now here's the memo, much like you saw earlier, with 45 cases, statutes, and regulations that answer this question. Again, no prompting necessary. Idea expression dichotomy applies. Here's my motion to dismiss. New York Times essentially hacked the system. Here's my motion to dismiss. Create questions to ask OpenAI CEO Sam Altman in a deposition. Hey, tell me about the process for developing OpenAI models. What data sets do you use? What are the sources? Then I say, give me questions to ask Microsoft CEO. Hey, was Microsoft involved in developing OpenAI's models? These are good questions. Then find cases like mine. And here, each of these 5 is a copyright infringement case that involves a large language model company. So you can copy and paste from these answers into the answers that you're doing here.
These are all questions that you would individually ask. It's not as though automatically you get this entire output. These are examples of each of the actions that are set out here.
Yeah, so each of these buttons is no prompting necessary. So this is, I can click, 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 click. The only ones that I put as a lawyer are the things that are right here. I put in this question on the idea expression dichotomy, and that's me as a copyright lawyer, knowing that so this is me prompting here and getting the motion to dismiss, and this is me prompting here and getting a motion to dismiss. But the rest of these are all out of the box, and these are either things that are currently in the system or the stuff that we've baked since I ran this last. So these are no prompting necessary for any of these.
So the no prompting, that's so interesting. Can you give us a little bit of why do you think that's important to be able to provide these out of the box?
Because we think that, even from our bicycles days, you can see that this is not a prompt. This is a question that you would ask in an email, or a question you would ask across the table. So when I watched Sam Altman on stage, someone asked, what do you think of the ascendance of the prompt engineer as a field? Sam Altman says, I hope that's not a thing in a year, because if I'm doing my job correctly, it won't be a thing. You'll just ask a question and we'll give you an answer. So we at vLex think the same. If we're doing our job correctly, you will ask a question. What you won't see are the 50 prompts on the background that we're doing in the background to make it sure that you don't have to prompt. So in the same way, there's a saying in software that the best user interface is no user interface. That is, you upload a document and we will give you all of these things out of the box. No prompting necessary. And we think that if we're doing our job correctly, we're prompting, so you as a lawyer don't have to.
That's great.
And I showed you a litigation example with this. This is not just litigation. I've uploaded the LinkedIn merger agreement where they were acquired by Microsoft, and it gives you all of these things out of the box. Give me inconsistencies, ambiguities, and clauses. Give me definitions, and are they properly defined? Conditions precedent, reps and warranties, covenants and obligations. And then it saw that this is a Delaware document. So under Delaware law, what are the consequences for breach reps and warranties? Under Delaware law, what's the standard for courts, board of directors approving a merger agreement? So for each of these inconsistencies, here's some inconsistencies, and here's suggested revisions to each of those. Here's overlapping clauses. Here's a checklist of conditions precedent for each of the parties. What are reps and warranties for all of these? What are the definitions, and are they properly defined? Give me a research for Delaware law standard applied by courts. Here's a standard. So these are all just, I clicked, click. Soon we're even going to give you the option to say, just do them all. I don't have to click buttons 8 times. I just say select all, and it comes output. And soon, perhaps you'll even be able to say, as soon as this complaint is filed, we'll give you all of this in an email. So that is the idea, is you just get the output. So we talked earlier about who our customers are. Our customers are law firms. Obviously, they're very excited about this, but we're also selling to corporations. And so what Fortune 50 corporations have said is, this is amazing. What we're going to do is thing number one, we're going to take all of the complaints that have been filed against us in the last year, and we're going to run it through this. And we're going to see, what did the lawyers do on top of this? And if the answer is nothing, that's going to mean something. And then going forward, they said, what we're going to do is we are going to now take a new complaint, and before we send it to a law firm, we're going to run it through this. And then we are going to send this output to our law firm and then say, what can you do atop this? Because that's all we're going to pay you for. So this is a way to be able to say the law firms that get it, that say the times they are a changing, are using this in a way that will benefit both them and their clients to give much better output than they would have. There's Casey Flaherty talks a lot about, we do a lot of thinking as lawyers, and we do a lot of thunking as lawyers, a lot of drudgery. This takes care of all that drudgery. So the law firms that get it say, yes, all that drudgery is now going away. And now I could be able to do a lot more thinking rather than thunking.
That's phenomenal, Damien. I can't wait to see what's next. I'm sure this is not the end of the Vincent AI development. Thank you so much for being with us today and showing us the new capabilities of Vincent AI. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here. And anytime I could talk to you is a good day.
I feel the same way. And for everyone watching, we will put some contact information for Vincent AI at the bottom for vLex, so that you can reach out and find out more if you'd like to. Thank you all so much for watching, and thanks again, Damien. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.